is here again. I'm kind of here early this morning, not too early, but I've had some thoughts on my mind. I was watching something last night about a football player with the Minnesota Vikings. He re-upped and signed an additional contract for 4 years. And in that 4-year period, they will pay him, and it's guaranteed, at least 58 million bucks. I thought about that for a moment. And then I did some reflecting that caused me to come here and want to share with you for a moment. I want to talk to you men. There are many of you who work, well, let's put it this way. There are many of you who in this society can't even find a job. You can't find a job. So mostly you hang out at shelters, places where they will feed you breakfast, lunch, and dinner because you have no other options. There are shelters that would put you up at night to sleep because you have nowhere to sleep. And some of you do have a job, but your money is so low that they will put you up at a small fee per night. Then there are those of you out here who resort to criminal activity as far as trying to survive. You sell illicit stuff, black market stuff, whatever it is that you can get out and sell it, whether it's drugs, whether it's items, appliances that have been stolen from a store or from someone's home. You would do these kinds of things to survive. Maybe sell your body, men and women, trying to survive. And then there are those of you who have jobs and you make minimum wages. Some of those wages, $5 an hour, $6 an hour. Some of those wages might be $8, $9 an hour. And some of them might be $11 an hour. I know nationally right now across the country, people are trying to see if they can interest the business community to increase the wages to their workers by the amount of $15 an hour. $15 an hour. Now, these are what we call controlled wages per se. Now, there are many of you who make $25 and $30 an hour. Some of you make even more. Quite a few of you make a little bit more than $100,000 a year, maybe $150,000, maybe $200,000 a year. But the range of people who are working, you want to call middle class, they range anywhere between $45,000, $50,000, and $100,000. $45,000, $50,000, and $100,000. Now, I want you to think about that for a second. We live in a system that everything you do, basically, costs money. They used to have it set up in school systems where they would have instruments that kids can use to play in the band. They'd have uniforms to play sports. These items were provided by the system. Nowadays, in most of these areas, people have to pay for these activities, have to buy their own instruments, buy their uniforms in a lot of cases. Sometimes the teachers have to get on the street and try to drag out some money from passerbyers in hopes that they could buy some school supplies for their kids. Now, think about that, ladies and gentlemen. Education, one of the most important things that one can do is to be educated. They say with this knowledge comes an abundance of new ideas and things that can be accomplished. But I want you to think about this here. Think about those people who are making $15,000 and less. $15 an hour and less. And all that's way back down to people on the street who live in pasteboard boxes. And I want you to think about those people who make $100,000, $200,000. They live a little different lifestyle. They really think they are much better than you who make $15 an hour. You don't even count. But my question is this. Here is a society. They call it capitalism. A capitalist society. And in this capitalist society, we have a democratic process. And usually this indicates that the people have a voice in what's going on. The people have a voice in it. So we have people making decisions that allow the things that I mentioned this for to occur. But I want you to think about the decisions. See, you didn't make these decisions. These decisions were made before you came along. And they were gradually added to since you have been here. And you perhaps haven't given it much thought, and if you have, you haven't done too much about it. But I want you to think about what I started off with. Now, here is a guy who entertains. And I use this because it seems that entertainment is the one that really pays money. Building buildings, building schools, changing minds, treating people, saving their lives, and all of this falls under. These are very important things, very important things. But they are limited in amounts of money that you get. Unless you try some trickery stuff like selling medication and raising the prices 500%. And it's a medication that quite a few people need. So, let me think about this, and I want you to think with me. Most of you that I'm talking to right now will be earning $15 or less an hour. But think about these people in entertainment, sports, whether it's football, basketball, baseball, tennis, and some other things I'm not too familiar with. And I want you to think about singing, bands, dancers, whatever is called an entertainment. They put a lot of money on it. Entertainment. To keep your spirit lifted. To give you something to do other than when you come off these $15 an hour jobs. Well, or whether you come off these 100,000 a year jobs. It gives you something to do. But look how it diminishes you. How it, as far as I'm concerned, demoralizes you. Here's a guy who plays football, making $58 million a year for running up and down the field, tackling people. Now, $58 million for 4 years. What does that translate to? I believe that translates to $14,500,000 a year. 14 million. You make 100,000. You make 30,000. You make 70. You might make 250. But this person makes $14,500,000 a year. Now let's break that down a little bit more. If that's 14 million a year, but they only work an average of 4 months a year. So 4 months a year, that would indicate that each month this player would make $3,625,000 a month. So with that 1 month check, this person can go and buy a home, buy cash for it, can go and buy a couple of cars that he might want to desire, buy cash for it, and other things that usually people do, food, clothing, travels, and other things. He can do all of that in 1 month's check. The school teacher out here working as hard to train your children, begging for money to do a good job, working year round, many of them from paycheck to paycheck, if they don't budget right. People who are working other kinds of jobs, working from sun up to sundown. It takes them 30 years, 15 to 30 years to pay for a house. 15 to 30 years to pay for a house. 4 and 5 years to pay off a car. Electric bills, energy bills never get paid off. It's a monthly continuation thing. And they're striving all the time, trying to survive, trying to survive. Now let me use myself as an example. I'm talking to you about some stuff that I recognize that happened. And my protest has been that if I'm complaining against the system, then I cannot partake of the system, trying to take it down. If I'm going to partake of the system, then I got to speak up for the system. But I don't partake of the system. In other words, the last job I had, let me make sure I got this right. And I'm a college graduate, worked for the government, been in the military, called myself spokesman and advocate for basic human rights, including peace and prosperity for not only America, for everybody on the face of the earth. I, my friends, was working at a university, Bethel University in Minnesota. And I just needed some money to help my wife along. So I looked for a job that wouldn't take too much concentration, something that I could do, so without even putting any real focus on it. So I ended up going to Bethel, getting a job washing dishes in the cafeteria, washing dishes. And you know how much I was making? I was making $6 an hour. My first raise was a dime. I made $6.10. That was how much money I was making. Yeah, I can't help but laugh. So, that was for a period of time. And since then, I've been out trying to educate people, speaking out, trying to wake people up who have been a slave so long, they don't even know what freedom is, don't even know what to think about when it comes down to freedom. But freedom, my friends, would be something like this. Freedom would be that everybody has a job. And everybody's job is important. As important as any job. But at the end of the day, by having a job, everybody who has a job would be able to own their own homes, just like the athlete. Have an opportunity to own their cars. Not some 10 years down the road or 30 years down the road, but own them. Their food and clothing. Own them. Education. Own it. Healthcare. Own it. And the reason that they own it is that they do everything that they're doing today. They continue to employ themselves in these. And they create the goods and services that the people need. But now they're not doing it for some boss, for some CEO. They're doing it for one another. In other words, the people of this country, I'm talking about this country right here now, rather than go in a capitalistic system, we go in a system where we the people are the country. We the people make the decision about the country, and the country is us. And there are no people on this planet, but let me keep it to America. There are no people in America that's more important than another. I don't care whether you're white or black, whether you're male or female, whether you're young or old. There is not one individual in America that is more important than another citizen. And that being the case, every last one of them should be entitled by divine right to food, clothing, shelter, education, health care. Now, this doesn't mean that the athlete got to come down off his standards of living. No, it doesn't. It just means that those people at the rock bottom rise up to a standard of living equal to that of an entertainer. He plays around football 4 months out of the season. Let these guys who work on ditches, who work building buildings, who teach school, let these guys go and watch and be entertained by these entertainers, whether it's sports or music or singing or dancing, that you are being embraced by one another and your skills. And everybody do your thing. But in the end of the day, you are not lacking anything that someone else might have that you want. No, my friends. Why don't we have a system that says, if you work, you live. And everybody's required to work just as if they were required to go into the military. Only this time the military is your life. And you produce the goods and services that are essential for survival for everybody. And in an abundance that everybody can get as often as they need, want, or desire. You do it. The materials come from God. The labor come from you, the people. Not from a CEO, not from Donald Trump. No, no, my friends. If a person who calls themselves has the knowledge of how to build a building, that's his job. You got the knowledge. Somebody else, like architect this stuff and draft it out. I can't even think of the words for it right now. But that's your job. The people who haul the materials, that's their job. The people who use the materials to build the thing, that's their job. And everybody plays a role in that. Why should a CEO make more money than the guy who's bringing the bricks in? Tell me why. Why should the engineer make more money than the people who are laying the mortar? Why? Because you came up with that crap. When I say you, I'm talking about people a long time before us. And we've just gone along with it. So it doesn't make any sense. It's a stupid thing. It's stupid. It's ignorant. It's foolish. It's the thing of slavery. It's the thing of the pit of hell. I don't want to say the devil brought it. There's a devilish thought picked up by human beings. And human beings has carried it forward. Now, I think this is a divine thought I'm telling you about today. Picked up by me. And I'm sharing it with you. That you should never work for $15 an hour. In fact, take the money out of this here working stuff. It is nothing but a con game. When Madoff got caught up in that scam, did they say, well, it's working for some, let's keep it going on? No, my friends, they kicked it out, they busted the man. You remember Enron? When Enron got busted for ripping off people, did they let it continue? No, it continued to a certain degree behind the scene. But for the most part, it was curtailed, it was stopped. Why? Because it didn't make any sense. People were being ripped off. And they stopped it. But what about the nation? There's a bigger scam going on, a bigger con game that's going on, a bigger Ponzi scheme that's going on. And it's messing over many, 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 many more people than Enron or Madoff and those guys. Stop it! Stop that bull! You men up in Congress, many of you think you're smart. Many of you are governors or have been governors. You've been mayors. You've been prosecutors. You've been defending you've been a defense attorney. You've been all of these things. You think you're important. And this crap that's going on in the system is facilitated by you. University president.